Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first Tea and Scones, official Tea and Scones for the year. And g'day, John Ladoka. How you going, John?
Hey, it's good to see you, Mark. Glad to be with you in the group today.
Absolutely. So there you are, way over in whereabouts in America are you based?
I'm in the heartland. We're right smack dab in the middle. We're on the western side of Michigan in a little town called Holland.
Fantastic, fantastic. And of course, we had Rochelle on last year, and it was so much fun having her on. She told me I had to have you on as well because you're the smart one in the family. Is that right?
No, not true. She's smart enough to know better.
That's right. No, that's right. Now, I first met your wife at Strategic Coach, and I think you joined. Is that where you met, or did you know each other before that?
No, my story started. I met Rochelle at University of Michigan. She was a student there, and I was with a technology company.
Yep.
And we sold it and got married and moved to Chicago, and kind of one of those sliding doors types of things. She had two options on the table for employment. One was to manage an enterprise rent-a-car, and the other was
Wow.
to work at Strategic Coach. And so in many ways, our lives hinged on that decision, but we didn't know it at the time. She picked
Yep.
the right option and started bringing home tapes. And I'd been an entrepreneur, but never called myself one. And she started bringing home tapes and telling all these stories about Dan Sullivan. I thought, well, what kind of a cult has my new wife joined? And little did I know that it would be probably the most formative relationship in our careers, because before I was really even formally an entrepreneur, I was awash in Dan Sullivan's wisdom. I was listening to his audios and became a raving fan and started the Wisdom Link, our company, in 2002, well before even meeting Dan. I was a fan and was, probably as avid a fan as anyone, mainly because most of Dan's clients, as you know, are very successful entrepreneurs, which means they didn't have nearly as much time as I did to sit around and listen to Dan Sullivan's tapes. Yeah.
No, that's right. We all drank the Kool-Aid, didn't we? And,
Indeed,
we all
indeed.
became raving fans, and still are. I still listen to the podcast, and I'm really enjoying the ones with Peter Diamandis and so on. About longevity and all those sorts of things. It's just talk
Dan's
about
remarkable.
wisdom. I mean, there's just so much wisdom, comes out of that. So you joined Strategic Coach at some stage, and obviously
Yes.
got closer to the Kool-Aid at that point.
We did, and enjoyed a really unique relationship with Strategic Coach. I was very fortunate. One of the coaches at Coach, prior to my joining the program, elected to sort of mentor me. His name was Dan Taylor, and I don't know if you knew
Oh yeah,
Dan.
Dan. Yeah,
Okay,
good
so
guy.
Dan just picked me as sort of his student and fed me books and mentored me and started introducing me to Strategic Coach clients for me to work with them. And I was doing unique process for those clients, one of whom ended up being the head of Lincoln Financial. And
Okay.
so well before I had even purchased my first life insurance policy, I was working with essentially the head of one of the largest companies in the country here, and became Mr. Insurance Guy, and did many hundreds of unique processes for Strategic Coach clients. In fact, Sullivan brought me into his office and made us sort of the official unique process team for the Coach clients. And so they had our materials in the back of the room. We enjoyed a rarefied relationship with Strategic Coach for about 10 years, I suppose.
Fantastic. I mean, that was such a great stepping stone for many people, especially in financial services.
Absolutely.
Taking away from product sales into unique processes. And I mean, it's the center of everything I do now around my own business. Rural Succession Solutions is our 9-step process. And I mean,
Brilliant.
That's just the heart of it, creating a unique process, unique value, unique wisdom, and so on. It's just so important. But, digging a little deeper, I'm not sure whether you're still going to coach or not at the moment, but what do you do, John, in regard to keeping positive mindset, positive focus that's positive all the time, gratitude tools? What do you use yourself to make sure your mindset's always right, and that you've always got that positivity, you've got gratitude in your life, and so on? What are the tools or strategies you're using now?
Well, I think in many regards it has to do with my trade. So when we built the Wisdom Link, it's a clever name and it might sound a little snotty, but we never positioned ourselves as being the wisdom. I was smart enough to know that I had no business going toe to toe with some of these 7, 8 figure, 25, 30-year industry veterans. So I didn't ever wish to be the dispenser of wisdom. I was there to collect it. And so I've built a career being in the cockpit, so to speak, with some of the best in the industry. So in wealth management, the top 10 on all of the platforms here in the States. Same thing with insurance. So grace and gratitude come with that. There's a certain humility in being in the room with renowned experts. And so my clientele keep me humble. There's just so much that they bring, and through them we get to be aid to the many hundreds of clients, and so it's a humble position in general. But like everybody else, I get downtrodden, or I get that sense of entitlement about why things aren't working this way or that. And I am a devout fan of Coach, and so gratitude journals, I remember distinctly writing things that I was grateful for. And a good example of this, I was moping around. I was being sort of self-inflicted wound. I was down in the dumps, and I remember writing my gratitude little journal. And I ended up writing, well, at least I don't have cancer. Well, you remember Dan Taylor died of cancer. And Dan was a fighter. Dan was a remarkable man. And he had, at the time that I met Dan, he had 6, I think, or 7 separate entities. Parent Care. He was coaching a strategic coach. He had Derbyshire. He had the American Pet Cross, which he roped me in and brought me into. He had Derbyshire, the real estate. I mean, the guy was a remarkable, entrepreneur. And when he got stage 4 cancer, he had only a year to live. In the last year on the planet, the guy hired us. He said he wanted to build a unique process for how to create or to make very difficult decisions under stress. And it was called My Victory. And I thought to myself, Dan Taylor would give anything for my problems. And so I'm sitting there in my gratitude journal. I'm being sarcastic. I'm writing, well, at least I don't have cancer. And I suddenly thought, yeah, you knucklehead, at least you're alive. You have days ahead of you to go and do things. And whatever your problems are, Dan Taylor would love to have your problems. And it was a good reminder. I've never forgotten that lesson. I've kept that for many, many years. And Dan broke my heart. I knew what Dan meant to me, but I never really knew what I meant to him. And when he passed away, he asked a couple of people to speak at his funeral. One was Dan Sullivan and the other was me. And I had no idea, because he was just such an icon and kind of an amazing, legendary guy. I just thought he must have had, and he did, 100 people at his wake. But he was very special, and his relationship with the world, phenomenal example of creating value, serving others, being sort of irreverent with the rules out there to bend and to innovate and find new ways to do things. And my secret sauce is every week we start our team meetings with gratitude. Everyone has to go around the table, personal and professional, and kind of we talk about it like we're sweeping out, the boogeyman. I start all my strategic meetings with my clients where I wait while they think of something if they haven't. And we use it as a salve against all this negativity. There's so much of it in the world, and everyone's so accustomed to just grousing, and nothing gets done. No good things come when people are stuck in their muck.
Nothing good in the world comes from it. And John, I'm not sure if you're aware, my daughter a few years ago created her own business, which is called the Gratitude Project. And I never talked too much about that in regard to the naming of it and so on. But when she did that, I was just I was so proud that somewhere along the line that had sort of filtered down through the
that's awesome, Mark.
Through the conversation somewhere, and her whole life these days is based on this business called the Gratitude Project, and really being selfless and helping other people to achieve things. And I love watching what she does in regard to being grateful for what she has in her life. And it's interesting. I'm digressing here a little, John, and I don't mean to cut into your time, but
I don't mind at all.
Narcissism is a very big thing in the world these days. I see more and more of it, and it's interesting because you can't be selfless, and there's a lack of empathy and a lack of gratitude with that sort of ailment. And it's lovely to watch people who do exhibit selflessness, have empathy for others, and do things for the benefit of others, and actually are grateful for what they have and don't have a sense of entitlement. They're the traits I look for in people these days.
Mark, this is the, I think, the virtuous side of capitalism, that if we are servants and if we are creating value for others, you can fall right into that with a lot of faith. That instead of being burned, you'll be rewarded, and instead of being swindled, you'll create a niche market and create value for others. And I have learned over and over again that when it's about me, boy, I am not very creative. The world gets very stingy and narrow. And when I make it about others, it's like the whole world opens up. I mean, it's really kind of a magical way of operating. And I don't think many people are taught it. I mean, maybe more now than ever before, but for guys our age and our generation, I mean, we were told to look out for ourselves because the world was a dangerous place. And I suppose it still is. I don't think that it's become some sort of Disneyland, but nonetheless, the magical power of just being in the humble servant position, creating, I mean, you have to be shrewd and smart and resourceful, and all those things still apply, and the principles of business, they still apply. But boy, when you are really in your heart serving, things kind of work out, don't they? I mean, it just sort of like comes to you. It's really kind of marvelous. Yeah, we've built most of our business through referrals, and I've made probably a lot less money than I could have if I had been stingy or driving by the hour. But we fall in love with our clients, and we just want to create tremendous results for them. And it's not always the shrewdest business to go in that deep or to give without watching the clock, but it always comes back with dividends. It always comes back to us in spades with new clients, introductions, repeat business. I mean, I'm 20 years in, and I've learned to have a lot of faith that that's a better path.
Yep. Yeah. Look, absolutely. I wanted to touch on, look, obviously there's a couple of businesses you're involved in. One's a playbook builder, and the other one, Wisdom Link, which we've already touched on.
Yep.
But before we get there, you talk about the work you've done in regard to business development, brand strategies, and so on. You've written books. Have you got any there to hold up? Or...
Yeah, I think I've got one around here. I wrote this book several years ago, and it's making a sort of a comeback. It's called The Thought Leader.
Thought Leader.
Yeah, and the truth is, again, it's this position I've been in. I have been in the room with some just phenomenal entrepreneurs for 20 so years, and I started to see patterns, and it fascinates me. The volume of clients that we've had over the years meant that I was sometimes back to back seeing folks who had and exhibited the same characteristics, the same values, the same narratives. We started to build this pattern that they operate within the structure, and it looks like this: the thinker, the leader, and their tribe. So the thinker-leader relationship is the person who unveils the big secret in their industry, really informs what's really going on. Dan Sullivan's a fabulous example of a thought leader in this regard. He always takes you to the place of oh, that's what's going on. He shows you where the money is. He explains what, that's the guy, that's the thinker. The leader provides prescriptive advice. They say, okay, so if you agree with me, this is what's wrong, and this is what's going on. Here's what you can do about it. That leader component.
Yep.
And so, to bring this back to the gratitude thing, it was just the who. I was just in the room, amazed that I got to be in the room with these folks, listening to what they do for a living. And the Wisdom Link was about capturing their wisdom. So I didn't have to be the smart guy in the room, thank God.
No.
I could just be there to listen. And we've had, the Zigglers and heads of big companies like Transamerica, and I mentioned John at Lincoln, top 10 producers, and they're always outliers. They're always the most interesting folks. They're just sort of, creating and innovating. It's a ton of fun. And
that was one of the interesting things about going to Strategic Coach.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was always the dumbest guy in the room. I remember one time we did a breakout.
Yeah.
And the other three guys and I was talking about my humble little issues over here in Australia. And the three guys in my breakout group were Dan Sullivan, Peter Diamandis, and Jeff Walker. And I sometimes think about that, and I just think, wow, those guys, all three of them.
Amazing.
Just big.
Yeah.
people in America, in the world, in regard
Indeed.
to what they do.
Yeah, globally. Those are big
Yeah,
guys.
that's right. And I thought there was a good lesson there about never be, when you're paying money to learn, don't be the smartest guy in the room. And I
Yeah.
certainly wasn't there.
That's it.
So,
I think coaches, after so many years, most of the folks in strategic coach often say the same thing, that the benefits they get from the wisdom of the materials and dance coaching and things doesn't pale in comparison, but it's well matched to the benefit of just simply collaborating with other entrepreneurs, that they get so much benefit and value out of the ways
Sure.
others are solving business problems. And as a consultant, if you work with businesses, this is true. We get to be like little honeybees, Oh, look at you with the wind out there.
I was going to say, is it noisy? Do I need to take this?
No. I'm just jealous. I think it's single digits where I am right now. It's like Narnia. So I'm very jealous of your beautiful back area there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here. A little bit of wind coming through. Now let's talk about the playbook builder, John. Let's talk about that whole business, and we'll come back to Wisdom Link. But let's with your playbook builder, explain what that means. And you've got software and so on that goes with that. So I want to hear about how you go into businesses and help them with your playbook.
Well, I've often said that wisdom is the thing, and I work with highly commoditized service businesses primarily. So the differentiators they're invisible. They're not products traditionally. They're they're the unique experience. And so we were in capturing that stuff with Wisdom Link, and we were just listening to some remarkable people. And I thought, my God, if I had the ability to capture what they're sharing, if we could get these stories that they're telling me on camera, what a great asset it would be for the entrepreneur. I'd come out of software. I was dumb enough to say, yeah, let's try this. And so we threw some money at it. We built the first round of Playbook Builder in 2009. And it worked. One of my clients was a financial advisor at Lincoln, and he was licensing his intellectual property out to other advisors. And so we put almost like a recipe, his PowerPoints, his tools, his checklist, but also his videos explaining how to apply these things. So a whole package. And that's how Playbook Builder was born. It became basically a walking, talking operations manual. And so clients use it for things like onboarding new hires, even before their first day, or scaling up best practices in the organization. They can clone the best person in the organization, the subject matter expert. You have 20 salespeople, one person's killing it. Let's take that person. Let's deconstruct what they're doing and harness it. We're working with a client actually down on your continent in Mackay, out in Queensland, and
Mackay in Queensland.
Yeah,
wow.
Fabulous company. They're called Guardian. They're an insurance company, and I absolutely love them. They're just wonderful people, and they do such a great job. And they're using Playbook Builder because they have so much magic in the company. They have such a brilliant culture. They've invested heavily time and treasure and resources to build a family-like environment, and they wanted to preserve it as they're growing. And so what they wanted to be able to do was tell those stories and that heritage, and also best practices, so they could scale up. And as you can imagine, with COVID, people working from home, they're isolated, or you're opening up new offices. It's hard to feel like a community. And so Playbook Builder it's a little cheesy, but I talk about it like a company campfire. It's a place where all of the wisdom in the organization can reside, so that it can be shared and it can grow. Typically, this, it lives in the heads of a few people. And we do knowledge transfers like it's the 1800s. I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to share with you from my mouth into your ears. And if you catch what I'm pitching, awesome. But if you leave or die unexpectedly or take half of my book of business, I have to start all over with the next chap. And you can imagine how discouraging it is for someone who's on their 4th or 5th junior, and they're tired of training them. And then COVID comes along and it just exacerbates this, because you never even get to see folks now. And so we've had a real interest in the software for companies that are trying to hold the whole organization together and have both the cultural stuff, the heart of the place preserved, but also just the operational things, the day-to-day stuff that needs to be done exceptionally well and consistently. And there's all kinds of ROI in that. You can imagine wealth management, hiring those team of advisors that you want to bring in to say yes to the volume, or your succession plan. That's the person you would teach with your stories and your best practices. Or if you're selling the business, you're going to be able to make it turnkey. And if it's not reliant upon you, it's worth more. These are the applications for it. And it's kind of so simple. I'm embarrassed sometimes if I tell you about Playbook, you're like, well, It's like you invented toast or something. I mean, you take all the stuff and you put it somewhere. It's it's not an innovative idea in that regard. What was interesting, 2009 we built it, and nothing like that really existed. And so we got really excited, and we had a number of clients really excited with us. So we built it again in 2012, and we decided to make it into a SaaS business, like a service as a software, and we would turn it loose. And we bombed terribly. And I thought, I don't get it. Am I just going to die with Playbook Builder in my basement, like Van Gogh's paintings or something? Like, am I the only one who thinks this is awesome, and like a handful of clients? But we were just ahead of the market. And so by 2014, 15, there were other players. People started to, experience these kinds of applications and see the merits of them. And then the thing that's been on my side is demographics. So my clients are boomers, and they're exiting the workforce. You deal with, you're an advisor, so that, if people are retiring, well, guys in your trade are retiring too, and they're looking to sell their businesses. And so they're thinking, how do I get it ready for sale? We've also worked with some private equity firms. They love the fact that what they can do is optimize all their, all the assets in the portfolio and get them all running in the same direction. Yeah.
Excuse me for the dogs.
I thought that was you.
Hold on, I'll ask you a question, then I'll mute the mic. But I mean, what you're talking about is just such a powerful thing. As you say, if you've got new employees coming in all the time, instead of actually allocating a human being to train those people day by day all the time,
you've got it.
You just give them access to this software. There's no travel. There's none of all those sorts of costs. So it must your software obviously saves companies a fortune in on costs, in employment time, in travel, accommodation, and all those sorts of things. But also you're saving, and like I say, if the executive, the key person, the entrepreneur dies, you've got all that wisdom that they've been able to record, and that's there for all the people coming through to understand why the business was set up, the intentions of the original owner, and so on. I mean, it's just so invaluable, John, what you're doing.
Thank you, Mark. I mean, you've been there. Somebody's administrative assistant will be gone for 3 weeks, and it can bring a very healthy company to its knees. Nobody knows how to transfer a phone call while Betsy's out, And so as a defensive posture, it's a good hedge against losing people. But additionally, it's such an honor to do it because, small businesses, I mean, we work with under 100 million in revenue. So they're small companies, usually first generation, and there's a pride in the way that they do what they do. They become successful not because they borrowed somebody else's plays. It's because they were very thoughtful and conscientious, and they were careful about those operations and those procedures having their brand, their values threaded through them. It's their unique way of doing things. And there's not only pride in it, it's a survival technique. This is why we win. And so to pass those on to juniors, to be able to preserve them, to even perfect them, there's real dollars and cents in thinking of process and the play-by-plays as the asset of the company, the wisdom of the business. It has real value. It has real marketable value. It can drive top line, preserve bottom line. And in the liquidity event, as somebody thinking like they've got their business down to almost a franchise, almost turnkey, it's worth another turn on EBITDA. Is your dog barking? No.
Sorry, I had the dogs were actually fighting.
We're a fine pair, aren't we, today?
They were actually fighting, so I had to mute myself.
That's okay. I'll bark along.
You wouldn't have been able to hear yourself.
Apparently, I sound like a cat or something.
They were chasing something over there. So tell me, Wisdom Link obviously just ties in so well with what you're doing with the Playbook Builder, John. So it's interesting you've got two separate companies because to me they just sound like there's such a huge connection between the two.
That's totally correct. We started with Wisdom Link, and we were doing it analog, and it occurred to us, golly, we should have a software that could house all this great stuff we're pulling out of these people. We did sever them, but we continue to work in parallel. So we've got clients who come to us to package all their wisdom and build a curriculum or to build their playbooks. Or we've got folks who just buy the software on the internet and just do it themselves. And, sometimes they call us and say, can you help? And we say, sure. Sometimes they're just busy as beavers and they do it all on their own. And we're delighted that they can. Where we really help them, and I think you probably understand this, it's hard to see yourself it's hard to do this for yourself to some extent.
Yeah.
Like to know what your own secret sauce is can be elusive. It's nice sometimes to have somebody pull it out of you.
Well, I've got to tell you, I've been working with some guys. We're doing a lot of Facebook ads and so on at the moment for
Nice.
our rural stuff, rural succession planning stuff. And I've got to tell you, they've pulled stuff out of me that I didn't realise were the keys in the communication piece with
That's
clients.
fantastic.
And you can't. It's like for my clients, I mean, you can't fix succession planning problems within the family themselves.
That's
they
right.
need me to come along and be the outsider to help them see what they can't see, because it's so much easier to see someone else's issues, isn't it?
It is.
Same for our own businesses, your business, my business, whatever. We need people from outside to come in and have a look. Like I thought my business was succession planning, but finally these guys got out of me. I'm in the area of conflict resolution, communication and conflict resolution. That's what I do.
That's fabulous.
I help families, rebuild communication and eliminate the conflict. And it's not succession planning. I mean, that's the end result, is they get a succession plan, they get their estate plan. But most of my work is stopping the squabbles and so on. So, without coaches, I wouldn't have ever understood that. And so what you're doing is you're helping people, just, like my coaches have me, understand what it is that they actually really do. Then you can put your structure, your unique process in place, which takes away competition, all those good things Dan taught us. Takes away the competition.
You get it.
Allows you to be a unique person in the marketplace.
That's it. You've normalized excellence. Most people, I think, started putting the blocks together in their career, and they assumed everyone else does it that way too. Funny people think anybody can be funny, and it isn't the case. And so, you've probably been trialing and testing different approaches for many. You probably don't even remember what it was like to be you 20 years ago and not know what you know today. It's hard, to sort of go back to those places. But, the typical dynamic that's rough is, were you to have a junior, they'd be starting at the 100 level. You'd have to be able to bring them back there in order to train them. But it's so rewarding for us. I mean, it goes back to gratitude, how we got started on this talk. To sit opposite somebody with the kind of contribution, say, that you make, and be able to help them scale it or perfect it or talk about it more. I mean, just what you've talked about with these Facebook guys, like, what a great gift for them to make you more present and aware of what you're doing. You can do it better now. You can do it more efficiently now. I mean, this is a great way to serve others. Yeah.
We're better for our clients than we ever were before. When I look at what we did 10 years ago for our clients, well, it was good and got a result. We're much more in tune. We're much more understanding of what the issues are, and we have better conversations, and we create better results. And that's what the important thing is. John, our time is nearly up, but I just want to say, and I know Rochelle's friends with me on Facebook, she'll be able to go in if she could and put in the links to both the playbook builder and the wisdom link, so people who are watching this can get more information.
I just kind of want to interview you though, Mark. I want to keep going and just learn more about what you're doing, because it's really neat. I had a client who had a PhD, and they would helicopter this gal into intractable family disputes, and it sounds like that's what you do. And boy, was it valuable. I'd love to know more about what you're doing. I know we have to stop at some point here, but my curiosity has got the better of me. It sounds marvelous. What a great gift.
Thank you. I love what I do.
I can tell.
Because, John, you and I all know families where somebody dies and the whole family falls apart because they come in and they start arguing about money and who gets what, and who feels left out and so on. And the gift that I have now of being able to go in and hopefully circumvent that before the squabbles start, before the people contest wills and argue and never talk. The saddest thing is watching families where cousins never talk to each other because the siblings have all fallen out, and you've got this row of 20 cousins underneath who aren't talking because mum and dad don't like their sister and brother, and it's just I feel so fulfilled when we do this well and save families effectively. Anyway, that's about me.
That's legacy stuff. That's legacy. Well, I mean, it's like the same theme though for what I do. I mean, we've made a really good living, you and I, helping other people, other families, other businesses. Like, it's such a pleasure to be of use that way. And for what you're doing, I see the impacts of it. It's legacy impacting. I mean, that's generational stuff. That could be significant for a family business. Yeah, what a great contribution. I love what you're doing.
Thanks, John. Our time is up.
Okay.
John, love chatting with you today.
You as well.
You have just been great people to chat with. And
my pleasure.
Please ask her to go on and put on these sites all the links we can use to get in contact with you and
Absolutely.
To look at the stuff that you've done. John, thanks. Great
Mark,
chatting.
thank you for having me. Take care. Enjoy the day.
And
Bye.
Absolutely great. You've got a client over here in Mackay in Queensland.
Yeah, it gives me an excuse. I might come and visit.
You better come visit.
Okay.
See you, buddy.
Take care.
Bye, mate.